The story of Florence Nightingale, the value of compassion. Florence Nightingale was named after her birthplace, Florence, Italy. When almost a year old, she returned with her family to England. Their house was always full of friends and family. Florence would look after children by inventing games and making sure they didn't get hurt. She also did whatever she could to help injured horses and sick cows. She cared for wounded birds until they could manage themselves. Her father reminded her not to let her compassionate heart to make her forget about her lessons. Florence often helped her mother deliver food to the poor around their estate. Her heart ached at a misery in which some of them lived. As she grew older, she visited them on her own, especially the sick. She wanted to make them well. So Florence decided to become a nurse. Her family was shocked because nursing wasn't an expected profession. But Florence was determined and studied books on medicine. One day, she persuaded a doctor to show her around a London hospital. She was shocked at the dirty and uncared patients, the filthy wards and beds, and the rats. Florence vowed to change all of this. Florence knew she had much to learn about nursing, so she visited the hospital in France, Germany, Ireland, and learned everything she could. Upon returning home, she was an expert on hospital management. In 1853, Florence agreed to take over a small London hospital. Her biggest problem is finding good trained nurses, so she decided to train them herself. Soon, people started to study her method of nursing, sanitation, and hospital organization. About a year later, England became involved in a war against Russia. London newspapers are full of stories about terrible conditions. Wounded and sick soldiers were suffering. Sidney Herbert, the Secretary of War, asked Florence to help care for the wounded and the sick. Needless to say, Florence agreed to go. When Florence and nurses arrived at British hospital in Scutari, they were horrified. The hospital left men lying on the floor and the rats were running everywhere. There was no running water and no heat. Many soldiers died before receiving help. In spite of the shortage of stuff, doctors wouldn't listen to her. They didn't like the idea of women in army hospital until one day 500 unexpected casualties arrived. Doctors soon realized that Florence knew what she was doing. She made changes and arranged for better sanitation. Above all, Florence made sure the men was washed and their injuries was cared for. Every night she would walk through the wards with her lamp. Reporters, including famous London Times journalist William Howard Russell, sometimes stopped at Scutari. His story made Florence famous throughout England. One day, Florence crossed the sea to the war-torn Crimea. When there, she became very ill, close to death. As the news spread, British soldiers everywhere prayed for her recovery. Finally, her fever broke, and when she was strong enough, Florence was back at work. When she returned to home afterward, Florence was astonished that people recognized her. A fund had even been set up in her honor. Many soldiers she had nursed had made contributions. Now she could set up the Nightingale Training School in London. After years of hard work, Florence Nightingale saw army barracks became less crowded and soldiers' health improved. Hospital became clean and cheerful. Nursing became an honor profession. All of this is because the compassion of the Lady of Lamp.
好。